Welcome back, War Fiends. Today on Warhammer Math, we're going to talk about the biggest damage combo that you can get out of the GLADIUS task force. So last week I analyzed a 3-man squad of Eradicators because that's actually how I run them. I think there's a lot to be said for that. A lot of you were disappointed that I didn't try the biggest combo. So today, we're going to try a 6-man squad of Eradicators with the Biologus, in GLADIUS task force, with the Devastator Doctrine, and Fire Discipline. We're going to try it on 5 increasingly tough targets and see how they fare. Before we get started, I just wanted to remind you that for each of these scenarios, we're going to compile 1,000,000 simulations and then look at the distribution of the results. So let's get started by familiarizing ourselves with the data sheets in question. Today we're talking about 6-man Eradicator squads, and in a 6-man squad you're going to get 4 Melta rifles, all hitting on 3s, and 2 multi-Meltas, so that's 4 more multi-Melta shots, but only hitting on 4s. All of them are strength 9, all of them are AP 4, all of them are damage 6, and all of them have Melta 2. We're also going to be looking at the Apothecary Biologus, because a lot of people wanted to see what happens if you include the Biologus. He's important because he grants a squad lethal hits. He also gives them additional OC if they kill some stuff, but that's not why you're taking him. But the killer is this. In the GLADIUS task force, we have the Bolter Discipline Enhancement, which allows its user to also get sustained hits 1 and gives critical hits on 5s.
Holy butts!
So,
okay, this is why everybody's talking about it in the comments.
Yeah, because if you use this combo, you're getting sustained hits 1 on 5s and 6s, and lethals on 5s and 6s, and you're re-rolling all of the hits that you would like.
Wow, that is way better. Okay,
Yeah.
I actually get it. You've never run a 6-man squad, so this is new to me.
Also, to be honest, I personally never run the Apothecary Biologus because if you're running him in any other detachment, the lethal hits alone, if you're wounding on 5s, only amounts to about a 12.5% increase in damage. So it doesn't actually make sense, in my opinion, outside of this detachment, or given some other combo that I have not considered yet. Let me know. In our very first simulation, we're going to take a look at what can the Eradicators do against a Rhino.
Well, Rhino's a pretty good standard target.
Yeah, not bad. And it's toughness 9, so you're going to be wounding on 4s. It's got 3-up save and 10 wounds. So in the first simulation that I ran, I just wanted to see what could 6 Eradicators do to the Rhino by themselves. And if you take a look at this graph right here, you can see that our 25th percentile is 24 damage, and our 75th percentile is 37 damage. So the way I would say this is our spread, half of the time, you're going to do between 24 and 37 damage. And for the Rhino, you have to get to 10 to kill it. So I have included not the entire breakdown this time, but just the probability of killing that Rhino, and in this case, it is 99.07%.
Holy mother of pearl. 6 Eradicators with the Biologus, and are we...
No, just 6 Eradicators. By themselves, nothing else, kills a Rhino 99 out of 100 times.
Whoa! For the swingiest shooting unit, that seems like a sure thing.
Well, again, though, you got to remember that they're wounding on 4s and they get to reroll, so they're wounding 75% of the time. They're rerolling all of their hits. So, and there's not going to be an armor save, because with AP 4, there's no armor save. So they actually become really reliable against a target like this.
Wow, okay.
So even though I didn't really feel like we needed to go on necessarily, I wanted to see what would happen if we decided to go with 6 Eradicators with the Biologus in Fire Discipline. But we're not going to assume that we're in Devastator Doctrine at this point. So if you're not in Devastator Doctrine, you only have criticals on 5s, it only actually makes sense to go fishing with the Biologus itself and not with the Melta rifles. Again, I would love to explain this further if y'all would like to know. But with just this combo, not in Devastator Doctrine, we're now going to do between 34 and 52 damage. So that's a 39% increase. And now, instead of a 99.07% chance of killing that Rhino, we're killing it 99.8% of the time.
That was my threshold. I was like, if it's not 99.8, at least I'm not trying.
Yeah. So be careful, because you're going to fail 1 in 500 times. But if you play your entire life, it could totally happen at some point. So careful. Be advised. But of course, I wanted to see what would happen if we were also in Devastator Doctrine, because something fun happens in Devastator Doctrine. If your criticals are on both 5s and 6s, now it actually does make sense to go fishing for those 5s and 6s. And if you do that, then now our damage distribution goes to 45 to 66 damage. That's
actual.
That is another 30% increase over just having the Biologus with that enhancement. So now you're going to kill this thing 99.9% of the time. So you're going to fail 1 in 1,000 times.
Now it's crossed my threshold.
Yeah, now we're good. Sure. Now we can actually go for this. I'll pull the trigger.
Pull it. Go for it.
Okay, so we've done some lighter vehicles. I also wanted to demonstrate, because some people were saying that this was the ultimate end-all combo, but there are some things it still doesn't work against.
Yeah.
Like Terminators.
Oh, okay. So we're going to go to some heavy infantry?
Yeah, so on heavy infantry, toughness 5, 2-up save, 4-up invuln, 3 wounds. But the other thing is the Eradicators, they don't get to reroll their hits, wounds, or damage rolls against anything other than vehicles and monsters. So they don't get rerolls now. So with 6 Eradicators, nothing else, just by themselves, they do an average damage of 8.6 and kill 1 model and maybe 2.
I'm sorry. I'm shocked that we went from 66 down to 8 wounds. But that's also minus the Devastator Doctrine? This is without the Devastator.
This is just the Eradicators, no Biologus, no Devastator Doctrine, no enhancement. Okay. Just the Eradicators all by themselves.
Okay, because that seemed like a huge difference for just a moment there.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So if you're looking at a 5-man squad of Terminators, you have about a 1% chance of wiping them out.
Yeah, not going to happen.
So the Eradicators, like, first of all, you have an invulnerable save, you lose the rerolls, and you don't have that many attacks. You're not actually going to kill that many Terminators, which is a little unfortunate. So let's see what happens if we add in the Biologus and Devastator Doctrine and Fire Discipline. I'm just going right to the maximum combo here because clearly this is not the target for them. Do you think this is going to make a big difference?
Yeah, I do.
All right.
I think it's going to make a huge difference.
So the 6 Eradicators by themselves kill 1 or 2 Terminators. Add in this giant combo, and now you go to 2 to 4 Terminators. I do want to point out you have a 0.023 chance of killing the entire 10-man Terminator squad, or a 16% chance of killing a 5-man Terminator squad, which is not bad, but we're also talking about like 270 or 80 points worth of investment here and trying to get in close. So I guess part of what I wanted to show here is that you're going after big targets with lots of wounds. You're not going after infantry, even heavy infantry with these guys. That's not what this combo is for.
You really want to point it at a monster or a vehicle because they have the anti-monster vehicle keyword?
No, it's because they only get to re-roll their hits, wounds, and damage against monsters and vehicles.
Okay.
So they don't get any re-rolls if you're not targeting those things. So I decided to go for another vehicle. Let's take a look at the Land Raider.
I think, okay, this is a pretty good spread of possible targets. I see. So you're going for a light and a heavy vehicle, and then like...
You'll see.
Just heavy... Okay, we'll find out.
Oh yeah, before we go on, if you like my content, please like and subscribe. It really helps us out. All right, so for the Land Raider, the big bad that I always seem to worry about, the 6-man by themselves are going to do 19 damage against this 16 wound vehicle. So again, you're going to notice this really weird spread. So even though you have more of them, you're really going to get a weird damage distribution just because of the nature of the weapon. And we're going to do between 13 and 25 damage, giving us an 82.8% chance of bracketing the Land Raider and only a 62% chance of killing it.
Okay.
Where is that on their graph? 16? It's like right here-ish. So not bad. It does pretty well. But what happens if we add in the Biologus?
Probably it gets even more devastating.
So I want to do this in stages. We're going to do the Biologus. We're going to give that Biologus the Fire Discipline so it gets sustained hits 1. Again, I'm not going to show you the math here, but it only makes sense to go fishing with the Biologus's pistol itself. You actually don't want to fish with with all the Melta weapons. So with just those things, not in Devastator Doctrine, we're going to do between 21 and 37 damage. That's an increase of 52%. So now you have an 87% chance to kill this Land Raider and a 95% chance of bracketing it. So again, 53% buff, totally right. Like, depending, you'd probably go for this. You might try and kill a Land Raider. But if you have the Biologus in there, like, freaking go for it. Like, you're going to make this happen like 5 out of 6 times. This is fun because in this case, we didn't re-roll any of our damage. We didn't have criticals on 5s. Our odds are still pretty good, but if you did decide you wanted to do this in the Devastator Doctrine, so that's once per game opportunity, unless you're using adaptive stratagems, actually. So you could actually pump in a command point to make sure that you are in the right doctrine for this squad. But with the maximum combo, now we're going to do between 30 and 50 damage. That is an additional 38% boost for being in Devastator Doctrine.
Is that 38% over the previous 50%?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you do this in Devastator Doctrine as opposed to some other point in the game, you get an additional 38% boost, which now increases your odd to kill this thing to 96.5%.
Holy, no, you can never hope for that kind of probability against a Land Raider unless you were pulling some big points.
I do want to point out the Land Raider does not have an invulnerable save, so it's going to be saving on 6s. And again, they might pop Armor of Contempt. You might pop some stratagems to get some extra AP in Devastator Doctrine, whatever. But barring that, because they would ultimately cancel themselves out, you've got like a 96.5% chance of killing this thing.
Wow.
You're going to kill it almost every time.
Well, we're well within your 80% certainty range.
I do love pointing out, though, that even though you expect to do 40 damage with this combo, there's still a 3.5% chance that you will fail to kill this thing, even though you have almost triple the damage. Yeah, that's the thing about this game. Like, sometimes you just swing low. In fact, you can even see, like, on the far left side of this graph,
a little tiny spike.
There is a possibility you could just bounce. It just could happen.
Right.
Which is,
maybe they'll save all that with their 6s.
It happens. It totally happens.
But when you have 6 Eradicators, now in order to do that, you have to roll 6 on, what is that, 8 dice? Well, you're assuming...
There's a lot of things going on in there, because like you could fail in any of those phases.
True, but the 0 is going to be way less frequent because you have twice as many attacks happening, plus sustained and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Whereas before, with so few dice, it was more swingy with 3 that by a long shot than with 6.
One of the things that I did notice is a lot of the comments mentioned that having the Apothecary Biologus in there and using this combo makes them more reliable. Look at the shape of this graph.
That looks like almost like a regular ass bell curve.
That looks like a regular bell curve. You lose all that weird geography once you start adding all this extra stuff in there. So it does make it significantly more reliable to use this combo. That's for sure.
Okay.
All right. But again, as I mentioned, the Land Raider, while being tough, does not have an invulnerable save. And I also noticed in the comments that a lot of people mentioned that I had previously applied the half damage to the Melta rule incorrectly. Thank you guys so much for pointing this out. I literally did not know that was an issue, but I took that feedback and I have fixed my program. So what do you say we attack the Avatar again?
Yeah.
Let's see what happens here. All right. So if we want to kill the Avatar of Khaine, we got toughness 12, 2 up save, 4 up invuln, and half damage, which, as I now realize, does not apply to those extra 2 Melta damage.
Dumbhead.
Yeah, so if we have 6 Eradicators by themselves, I want you to notice, though, that if we're having the damage but not the +2, the geography of this graph gets really freaking weird now.
Oh my God, I didn't even look at that.
Because now you're either going to be doing 3, 4, or 5 damage every time. So if you're doing damage in chunks of 3, 4s, and 5s, you get a really weird distribution.
Look at that.
So, with just those 6 Eradicators, you're going to do an average of 7.9 damage. And our spread is going to be between 4 and 11 damage. Also notice, still more than a 12% chance of completely bouncing. Yeah. So, what is this? This ends up being
like such a sourpuss all the time. The Avatar is extremely cool, and I would run him if I played Eldar. I just hate him when he's on the other side of the table. That's all I'm saying. I'll shut up about it.
I love my Avatar so much. He's still big and gray, but eventually he'll get a paint job and he'll look really cool. But again, we have a 12.8% chance of bouncing. You got a 45% chance to bracket him and only a 14.9% chance of killing him.
Now, I know that we're saying 50% of the data is between the green and the red indicator. Very useful. But I feel like this is such a wacko graph that it's almost meaningless. Am I right?
Yeah, so it'd be really weird to talk about the standard distribution of this graph, for instance, because there's nothing bell-shaped about this curve. But I still feel like it's useful to know that half the time you're going to do between 4 and 11. But again, notice, less than 4, most of the time that means you just miss. So it is a weird case. Now, what if we had 6 Eradicators, and we add the Biologus, and we give him the Fire Discipline Enhancement? Again, I'd like to note we are not fishing except for the Biologus's Absolver pistol. Okay. That's going to be the only place we're fishing.
Yeah, let's aim that huge, terrifying unit at the Avatar. I'd love to see him die.
All right, let's see what we get. We get, again, a 50% boost in output. So now we're actually going to be doing 12.4-ish damage, which is still less than his 14 wounds. So we're going to expect to do between 8 and 17 damage this time.
Yeah, he's no Mortarion, but he's just a nightmare to kill. So.
Yeah. Also, I'd like to point out, this was a weird thing. I actually kind of panicked when I ran the simulation the first time because I knew that I needed to fix the half damage thing. And it was like, how the heck did I get results with only 2 damage? So that's actually a small number of cases in which all of the meltas miss, but the Biologus pistol still goes through.
Oh, that makes sense.
That does happen sometimes.
Yeah, okay.
Not very frequently. So you have a basically 4.8-ish% chance of missing with all of your melta weapons here. You got a 70.3% chance of bracketing him, and now you have basically a 40.5% chance to kill the Avatar. So not only does that not meet my threshold, we don't even have like odds on to kill this guy at this point. So that's a little tough. But people in the comments have been letting me know that this combo will melt literally anything. So let's go ahead and put these guys in Fire Discipline and see what happens. Because in Fire Discipline, we do want to fish for the 5s and 6s. It makes sense to go fishing now.
Because the Fire Discipline, that's the sustained and the crits on 5.
Yeah, exactly. So now it makes sense to go fishing with everything.
So now we're just going to roast the crap out of the Avatar.
Yeah. What do you think? Can we take him down?
Yes, I hope.
Yes, we can totally kill him 63.9% of the time with this giant combo. So again, we're seeing similar numbers here. So we're seeing another 42% boost on top of already having the Biologus and being in Fire Discipline. So if you're in Devastator Doctrine, you get an additional 42% boost, doing an average of 17 damage. Well, 16.9 damage. Yeah.
And he has 14 wounds, you said?
14 wounds.
Hey, yeah, we're more than odds on to kill him now.
Almost 2 out of 3 times you get to kill him.
When you say odds on to kill him, you mean expectation value is at his...
Odds on to kill him means you have basically 50-50 chance of killing him.
Okay, yeah. So we're more than that. That's pretty sweet. I'll take it.
I'd also like to point out that if you do this squad costs almost as many points as the Avatar does. So if you come out and try and melt him and fail... that's not good.
You're about to get snitched.
That's almost certainly true. By the way, I'm probably going to overwatch you with my horrible spear and kill a couple of them.
And then he's going to use his fate dice to auto hit it and get die 3 extra hit.
Only until the codex comes out. We're going to see what happens at that point.
I know Dems the rules. I'm just a bitter sourpuss. I love it. I'm just kidding.
All right. So again, if you'd like to hear me explain why I'm fishing now, but I wasn't fishing before, please let me know. I'd love to talk about some of those mathy concepts. I'm just trying to give you all what you want.
It seems like you're dangling a carrot.
I'm just saying, I love talking about math. Give me more reasons to talk about the math. Okay.
It seems like you're dangling a carrot. You really want to talk about fishing. Fishing is an interesting concept. I'd love to watch it.
Yeah, I'm really dangling worms. Okay. So that was mostly what I wanted to talk about. That was the big bad that I did in the first video. Oh, wait. Somebody said, why on earth did you not try this giant combo on Mortarion?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean,
so my last video was on Mortarion, who is still toughness 12, still saves on 2, still has an invulnerable save of 4, but instead of half damage, he has a 5-up feel no pain.
And 2 extra wounds.
So he does have all these other benefits. He can get the benefit of cover and stuff, which doesn't make a difference because of his invuln. But yeah, you want to see what happens if we use this giant wombo combo on Mortarion?
Yeah,
People are telling me it melts Mortarion.
I'm not nearly as bitter at Mortarion personally.
I am personally very bitter at Mortarion. True!
Okay. All right, yeah, let's see it.
All right, so maximum damage combo. I'm not going to bother with anything else. We're just going to max it out. Mm-hmm. Take a look at this sweet-looking curve.
Wow.
So we're going to do between 10 and 21 damage to Mortarion, averaging 16.2, giving us almost exactly 50-50 odds of killing him. 50.2% chance.
Wow.
So all those people who said that you can just melt Mortarion with this, yeah, half the time.
You're half right.
You're half right. And God forbid you get a -1 to hit, because that's significantly going to impact your odds.
Which he can use with miasmic whatever.
Yeah. So I would like to point out that all that said, he is slightly tankier than the Avatar against this particular combo and against many other combos. So what the heck? Also, I'd like to point out there is still a greater than 1% chance that you completely bounce off Mortarion with this combo.
Wow, that 0 is a much taller spike than it was against the Avatar.
That's true. Yeah. So that's what we got. So this giant combo is pretty darn sweet. It roughly doubles your damage output against things that are toughness 10 and higher, which is pretty spectacular, especially considering you're only adding in the extra, 100-ish points for the Biologus with the Fire Discipline. So like 50% more points for 100% more damage. And very little extra durability. That's okay. Yeah, go for it, guys. That'll be great. Can't wait to see what y'all are doing in the GLADIUS Task Force. So the thing I'd like to mention is that this combo is fantastic if you're trying to use the Eradicators to just absolutely melt one giant target. But this combo only works if you're playing Space Marines and you're in the GLADIUS Task Force, which I personally have only done once. I usually use a Blood Angels detachment, and if you're using any other Space Marine detachment, adding the Biologus only adds about 12% damage, which means he's probably not worth it.
Yeah, so why are you always using the 3-man squad?
I like the 3-man squad, because the 3-man squad is only 100 points. And for 100 points, I get to invest in something that my opponent gets to sweat about and cannot ignore. I can either just hide them in the midfield and just have them as a constant threat against something that's going to come up. I don't use them to actually kill targets. I'm just trying to soften up targets before I charge in with my other close combat units. Or I can keep them in reserve. And then my opponent has to screen them out on the board edges the entire game, lest I come in and just melt something or add some extra damage to something. The thing is, they end up being a 100-point nuisance unit against hard targets, which I personally find to be invaluable. I mean, they're not a standout unit. They're not a required take, but I find them to be pretty useful run that way. So that's why I did that initial analysis. But if you want the big old wombo combo, go Gladius, go big. I didn't think I was going to be doing another Eradicator video this soon, but so many people asked for it that I just had to respond to the comments. If you want me to run some more simulations, if you think you have some fantastic ideas, let me know, because I want to explore all of them with you. Oh yeah, before we go, there are two things I wanted to ask you guys about. First of all, do y'all prefer the slides to be black or white? Because I like the black ones, but people didn't seem to dig it very much. So what are your thoughts? The other thing is, on this video, I did not give the full damage distribution for most of these targets. Instead, I just opted for the critical values, like bracketing and actually killing. I personally prefer to have a lot of the data, but I want this to be accessible to as many people as possible. Tell me what you think. Do you prefer it this way, or would you like more data? Thank you for watching to the end. I really, really appreciate your support. Please like and subscribe, and if you don't, dingoes will eat my babies.
Thank you for watching another episode of Warhammer Math.
For the Emperor!
Welcome, Whack Warfweeds. We're way on Warhammer. That's the Gladius Task Force.